Hi there, Zam here for NerdTube. These are my thoughts and spoilers of episode 2 of the Tulsa King, Center of the Universe. Now, this show has just got me hooked from the very beginning. Usually it does take a few episodes for a show to get me really involved in it, but from the first episode and now this episode, I am on board. I love everything about the Tulsa King. Even the opening music, it's got that vibe of Western mixed in with that sort of city mafia sort of sound. Fantastic choice, because it is the clash of two worlds. This man from out of town coming in, bringing in his ideology, his values into a totally different culture. It's fantastic. And the sort of like fish out of water story we get with Dwight in the first episode, it continues with this episode, and it's not just about a fish out of water, it's also a man from a different time. Being in jail for 25 years, he really hasn't caught up with the change of things. Like, he wanted to send a parcel at the beginning of this episode, and he wanted to pay by cash. But this particular place doesn't accept cash. They only accept, Visa or MasterCard. And that pissed him off a little bit because being in the salon for as long as he has been, he has no access to a Visa or MasterCard. Something he does try to get a little bit later in this episode. Even when he goes for a coffee, he wants it in a glass, good old fashioned glass mug. That's how he likes to drink his coffee. But they're serving coffee in paper cups now, and he's like thinking, "What the hell's going on?" Crossing the street, the street sign tells him to wait, wait, wait. And he's like, "What the fuck is this shit?" It's just absolutely amusing seeing him trying to catch up with the world. And we also get a little bit of a somber moment as well because he is on the computer, something he does know how to use to a degree, and he's trying to find his daughter, but he needs credit card information to unlock this particular site. So that's something he tries to obtain during the course of this episode. And one of the things we do see him do is that him and his driver um, go to a bank to apply for a credit card. And it's, it's very amusing because the sort of identification he has is expired. He doesn't have anything up to date. His ID expired in 1998, probably just after he went to jail. So that's no good. So then he wonders how he's going to get some form of ID. He needs an ID. So he applies for a driving license. And there's a funny scene, as you can see below me, where when he's studying for his license, he just basically muscles the guy next to him and makes him show him his answers so he can copy them because he's got no bloody clue. And then when he takes his photographs afterwards to put on his driving license, he acts like he's having a mugshot done. It's just so funny. It's just, oh god, it's just absolutely brilliant stuff. And also as he's trying to discover Tulsa as well, like he's just trying to get a feel for the town, he comes across this place called the Center of the Universe, aptly named after this episode. And the homeless lady starts talking to him and tells him that if you stand right there, you can say whatever you want and nobody else will be able to hear you. It's been known as the center of the universe. It's not necessarily the center of the universe, but that's what people call it. But it's a bit of a phenomenon, this particular spot. So he gives it a shot. He stands in this place, starts saying things like horse and whatever, but nobody can hear him. And watching this episode the second time, I do recall him watching this mother and her son standing there doing the same thing. But I never really picked up on what they were doing until I watched this episode the second time, and then I realized that he's watching them. But then because I knew it was the center of the universe where they were standing, I also realized you couldn't hear them because they were making all types of noise. Like the kid would like go like this and say probably be shouting his brains off, and you couldn't hear him. And I only picked up on that when I watched this episode the second time. Anyway, he does it. He's impressed by this particular phenomenon, and then he tries to actually give the old lady some money. So because she's a homeless person, and the lady doesn't want his money, which was kind of remarkable because regardless of who he is, she doesn't. She has some values of her own and doesn't want money from a gangster, but she can pick up on the vibe that he is a gangster. Doesn't want her scuzzy money apparently. Very cool moment. Unusual though. Nevertheless, Lucky Luciano, aka Vincent. So I might call him Lucky Luciano because the actor did play him in Boardwalk Empire. But, his jaw's been broken after Dwight knocked him out in the previous episode. And he wants satisfaction. He goes to his mob bosses and he tells them, like, what the hell, man? I'm a capo. I'm a made man. this is not going to happen. I want him dead. But as this particular saga pans out, and later on in the episode, what one of the mob bosses does is that when he calls up Dwight, he doesn't say that he's going to get killed, because obviously you're never going to tell somebody you're going to kill them. You're just going to whack him by, the Goodfellas method of acting like your friend and stuff like that, and kill them with a smile on your face. So he's not obviously going to kill him, but he does tell Dwight that, look, what you did is bad, and this guy's a capo, and you need to pay up for this. This is like an insurance thing here. So he tells him $100,000. This is what you need to pay Vincent for knocking him out and breaking his jaw. And Dwight doesn't take too kindly to that. Says that he will send him something, but if it's ticking, then you should stay away. I don't know how this is going to pan out later on, because obviously this is not resolving the issue. And I do know from watching some of the highlights of, some of the upcoming scenes from episode 3, that this particular issue will prolong, and Dwight will probably think that maybe certain people from his own organization are trying to come after him, maybe, even though it's probably somebody else. And that other person is a guy called Manny. Now, Manny is a guy who we don't really know much about yet. We've seen him here and there in the first episode. Oh, sorry, just a little bit here, but we're seeing him a bit here and there in this episode. He looks like a guy who's kind of run away from his old life, which is probably being in the mafia, and now he's hiding out in Tulsa, thousands of miles away as far as he's concerned. But then he sees Dwight. Now, he's a paranoid guy. He doesn't even realize that Dwight doesn't know that he's there, but he thinks Dwight does know that he's there, and he thinks Dwight's there to kill him. And probably in the next episode, he will be the guy who tries to get Dwight killed himself by setting up some sort of assassination attempt on him. And I think this is where Dwight will then assume that the mob are trying to kill him, and obviously all this confusion will lead to more hustle and bustle. Even though there's other characters coming into play in this, now we saw Stacy Beale come back, the person he had a one-night stand with. She basically explains to Dwight, I am a cop and I'll be keeping an eye on you. I know that you're an ex-con, you're a criminal, and all of that. And also Tyson, the driver, we meet his father, and he is a guy who lives by the straight and narrow, doesn't like what his son's doing, obviously being the chauffeur of a gangster and all of that. It's interesting, because I do feel there's at some point with all these additional characters, there's going to be some tragedy, because when you are that close or involved with people in organized crime, sometimes the innocent gets bumped off. And I think that could be maybe the father in a few episodes down the line, or something along those lines. I'm just guessing, but I just feel that good people tend to have bad things happen to them, and this might be the case for a couple of people as we get to know them during the episode. Now, Bodie's, remember him? He's the guy who owns the weed shop. He has to arrange a meeting between Dwight and his supplier, and we see Dwight and his supplier. We see Dwight go to meet his supplier. He takes Bodie and Tyson with him. You can see in the far end of the picture, they meet a guy called Badface. Now, he's the cousin of the supplier, and this guy takes no shit. And there's a nice little square off between Dwight and Badface until Jimmy, the guy who's Badface's cousin, comes in and intervenes, and then we hear the negotiations. Now, during all this particular time, Dwight doesn't realize that he's eating, cannabis marmalade or something like that, and he gets a bit high and stuff. But he does manage to get to negotiate a deal with Jimmy, which is very beneficial to Dwight, because he's basically knocking down the price of buying weed in bulk. Before he was paying $1,200, something that he's still willing to pay for the first several lots of shipment. But as he buys more and more stuff, the price will go down, which is more beneficial for Dwight, because that means he can make more profit. And then obviously, because Dwight's had a bit of marmalade and he's now been given a joint and he's smoking that, we see him babbling stoner talk in the back of his car as him and Bodie and Tyson are driving away from the weed farm after making a good negotiation. It's very interesting. And also there's one moment where he, even though he didn't have a fight with Badface, he does admire him and accidentally called him Fuckface, which made me laugh so much. Oh god, it's just the best. But at the end of this episode, we do see Dwight get his credit card because he has applied for it. It's actually not a credit card, it's a debit card, but once again, it's just some form of ID that he needs just to cement himself in today's world, and as well, obviously, to unlock this particular thing on the internet, which will help him locate his daughter. Something that he does end up doing, not initially finding his daughter, but being able to call his daughter. And when he rings up his daughter, his daughter's wife answers his daughter's husband answers the phone, and obviously there's some dude ringing up his wife. He's wondering who it is. Finds out it's his wife's father, and she doesn't want to talk to him. And also Dwight's able to hear some kids in the background, making him realize that he's a grandfather as well. So there's all these things coming to him as he's coming across all of this. He's talking obviously to his son-in-law too as well. This is all very unusual, a little bit emotional for him. But then finally his daughter takes the phone because he wants to hear her voice, and he lets him hear her voice, and then she hangs up on him, basically telling him to fuck off. And this kind of really upsets him, obviously, because he understands why she's doing this. He knows that his lifestyle, being a gangster, is just going to bring misery to everybody around him, and she doesn't want her family in danger, probably, which is what would happen by knowing somebody like him. And he realizes this too, and then he goes on a journey, on a little walk back to the center of the universe, and he confesses all of this stuff, I think, to a bloody signpost. Is that probably the closest thing he has to maybe a statue of Jesus or something. But he goes to the center of the universe knowing that nobody else is going to hear him when he stands there, and he basically spills his guts out and explains why and it basically says that he knows why his daughter doesn't want anything to do with him, because he himself wanted nothing to do with his daughter. He chose the life over her, and he's sorry about that. But how sorry is he? I guess not sorry enough, because by the looks of things from next week's episode, from some of the clips I've seen, he just basically continues where he left off. So he's a bit unhappy now, but life goes on. Will he see his daughter? I'm pretty sure he will, because these elements are put into place, so we know that they will come into play at some particular point. Came in very early, obviously, him having to speak to his daughter in episode 2, but I'm sure he will see her at some particular point, or hunt her down, or maybe she'll hunt him down. Who knows? For some particular reason, maybe inheritance. Who knows? Maybe she's desperate for money herself. I don't know. Maybe the mob catches up with her. Who fucking knows? But yeah, there's all manners of things happening, and obviously, when with these shows, innocent people do get fucked, and I do think that will happen at some point. Maybe Tyson's dad, I think, will get fucked at some point. I'm just guessing at the moment, but like I said, he's a good man. He's a plumber and all of that sort of stuff. Like, he believes in an honest day's work. Of course he's going to get fucked over. Anyway, let me know what you think of this episode. And once again, absolutely fantastic. I'm loving the comical vibe of this. Like, Stallone, he's absolutely killing it. This is not an action role. This is a real character role that he's doing, and people never give Stallone enough credit as an actor. They immediately assume that the persona of Rocky is who Sylvester Stallone is, that he's some sort of fucking idiot, and he's not. He's a fucking very educated, talented, intelligent man, and you see this in this particular performance where he's playing this gangster role, and he's just doing it so well. He's just phenomenal. I love it. When he's on screen, it's just when I'm the most happiest. There are obviously subplots where he's not on the screen, but he just soaks up everything. The guy is a fucking legend, and I love this role. This is some of the best stuff he's ever done. I do mean that, ever done. 2 episodes in, and I'm trying to compare it to some of his most recent work, which has been absolutely shit, let's be honest. And then you have to compare it to some of the more legendary work, which is obviously Rocky and Rambo and stuff like that. But in a way, that's a disservice to what he's doing here, because those were, in a way, a character role with some action moments as well in the Rocky, regarding all the boxing and the fighting and stuff. And Rambo itself, even though the first movie, First Blood, was definitely an action film with very, very good character arcs and character understanding a particular character in a Vietnam vet in John Rambo. Yet the sequels themselves were just terrible fucking explosion fests, which didn't do the original movie justice. But this is just brilliant. This is some of the best stuff he's done in a long time, and I'm very, very, very happy, very satisfied. I wish he was a little bit younger, because being 75, I don't know how many seasons of this he's able to do, which does concern me, does bug me. It's in the back of my mind regarding that, but whatever. Let's just enjoy the ride while we have it. Many more episodes still to come. We're only 2 episodes in. I can't wait till next week. This felt like a long ass week, but I was dying for this fucking episode, and now I've got to wait another goddamn 7 days. Anyway, let me know what you think regarding episode 2, the Center of the Universe. Sorry for babbling on. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Take care. Bye bye.